Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And today I have the one and only Mrs. Taylor Thompson on the show. You guys are not going to believe this woman's story. Hey, if you want to learn how to become a millionaire, you might want to watch this. So, hey, stay with us. We'll be right back. And we are back. I want to bring Taylor on. Here we go. Taylor, welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you always so happy?
Well, I say, here's the thing. I was raised that don't let the enemy steal your joy, and the joy of the Lord is your strength.
Amen. Amen. You are a bright, shining light and just filled with energy all the time.
Oh,
all the time.
Well,
I love it.
I might disagree with that because sometimes, it's not always like that.
Who?
My family, they may beg to differ with you on some occasions, I'm sure.
Hey, I mean, you're a friend and a client of mine. I've experienced a little bit of stress that you may have been going through, but I don't think I've ever heard you just like lose it. So, but so Taylor, I created this show 2.5 years ago, and it was to help people get unstuck in life, to have a breakthrough. I'm sure that along your journey, I would imagine you've had some setbacks.
Some?
Yeah, you're like, that's my middle name. So let's start with telling everybody where you were born and raised.
Well, I mean, now don't tell Larry.
Okay.
Because he doesn't like for me to share this too often, but I was born in Weatherford, Oklahoma. So that's the part that he doesn't like for me to share.
Why? Come on, Larry. Why? What's wrong with Oklahoma?
He just thinks that, he's like, that Oklahoma? Like, what? So I was born in Weatherford, Oklahoma, but I was raised in West Texas. I'm a West Texas girl, diehard. I grew up all over West Texas. I went to 6 different elementary schools, if you can believe it. So I think that's probably, why I don't meet strangers. And, I was put in situations that, I had to be, the uncomfortable had to become the comfortable. So really kind of stretched out of the comfort zone. And then if I was going to have friends, I was going to have to make it happen. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, and but it interesting on my journey. I mean, I went to Amarillo, Texas. That's where I really started my journey. My mom, she was married to my dad, and my dad was a Vietnam vet. And my mom had been in nursing school in Amarillo. My dad was a very troubled man, came back from Vietnam and just really wasn't the same guy that he left. I was really very, very physically abusive to my mom. And so I watched all that as a little girl. At the age of 5, my dad actually kidnapped me from my mom at gunpoint. I remember it very clearly. After he, I remember him holding me with a gun pointed out at her, and her sitting in the living room, and I mean bloody. She was beaten to a pulp.
Oh my God.
And he said, if you try to stop me, I'll kill you.
Oh my God.
And so I remember him sticking me in the back seat and making me lay down in the floor bed of the car, and to be quiet. And that's the way I lived my life for almost a year.
And this was in Texas?
Well, it was in Texas, but we were, from that point, our journey for the next year was all over. We were in Wyoming and Colorado and Utah. His family was primarily in Utah. We were in and out of Utah. We were in California, and I had to be hidden during the day. I couldn't go out during the day. And I didn't talk to my mom for over a year.
Oh, at 5 years old.
At 5 years old, my mom didn't know if I was dead or alive, and my mom was so desperate to try to find out, like from his family, is she, just tell me if she's okay. Tell me, they would not even tell her if I was healthy, dead, live. If they've seen me, they told her nothing. And the FBI actually got involved.
I was just getting ready to say, where was the FBI?
Yeah, no, it was a major ordeal. And it was actually in Oklahoma. Because my father's family was actually from Oklahoma. We were in Lawton, Oklahoma, and my grandmother, actually my great grandmother, she called my mom and said, she's here. And she just couldn't stand the fact that, what he was doing to my mom. And I'll never forget, it's in the middle of the night, and they grabbed I was at my great aunt's house, and they pulled me out of bed and they stuck me underneath the dining room table. And I remember this dining room table was in front of this big plate glass window. And I remember looking out of the window, and like all the police cars and all of the lights, and you have no idea like what's really happening or what's really going on. And I remember seeing mom, standing by the police car, and I was just waving at her. And I just remember being so excited to see my mom, because honestly, it's kind of weird, Ken, because I don't remember what my dad was telling me about my mom. I remember asking, but I don't remember what he was telling me.
Wow.
The offset was on that. It's kind of interesting. But that night, I was reunited with my mom. And
at 6.
No, I was still 5 at that time.
Oh,
I was still 5.
So did they arrest your dad?
Yes, they arrested my dad. And, interestingly enough, and I guess as a mom now, looking back, I don't know how she didn't do this, but she didn't press charges on him because he would have went to jail. And she told me, she kept telling me, because he's your dad.
Wow.
And so that was like in April that they found me. I was turning 6 in July. So in May, now keep in mind, so this whole time, my mom met my stepdad during the course of all this. And he was like her, confidant, best friend, walked with her through this whole process. I mean, you can imagine like not seeing your child or whatever. So she developed a relationship with my soon to be stepfather. So this was in April. Well, then in May, my mom is marrying this man that I don't even know.
Wow.
And, so then
the following May.
No, they rescued me in April.
Oh.
Yeah, she married him, my stepfather, in May.
When did your father do that horrible?
Well, see, so while I was gone during the whole time, my mom divorced she divorced him.
Yeah, but that had happened, I guess, a year earlier, almost, or somewhere thereabout. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Wow, Taylor.
So then so in the summertime, so now he has summertime visitation with me, my real father. So it's May, they marry, it's June, now it's summertime, and now I'm supposed to go back to be with my dad.
Oh my God.
And I'll never forget, whenever he came to pick me up, I locked everybody out of the house. I did.
At what, 5 or 6 years old?
5. So this was in June, and I turned 6 in July.
Wow.
And I locked everybody out of the house. because I thought that he was going to take me away again, right? And so, the only person I let in was my stepdad at that time. And, he promised that nothing's going to happen and he's going to bring you back. And so that's how I started my journey. And I started first grade, then rode a school bus. My mom was a nurse. My dad was a farmer. We lived on a farm. And
your dad or stepdad?
My stepdad. So I became a farm girl at this point. And so right before I started school, I had really, really, really long hair, and it was long and curly. I have natural curly hair. You can't tell now because I kind of straighten it and curl it. But my stepdad made my mom cut off all my hair.
What?
Yeah. He made my mom's cut off all my hair. So I had this short, you can imagine, like short, I had real curly, and then it just became this kinky curly hair.
Oh my gosh.
And so I remember I got on the school bus, and immediately kids started bullying me.
My gosh.
So I immediately started school under the premise of, being that kid, right? That I was tall. Most people don't know because they see me behind the camera, but right now, I'm 5'11".
Are you really?
Yeah.
See, we've never met in person, so I wouldn't know. Wow.
You don't know how tall people are or what the stature is, whenever you're only behind the camera all the time.
Yeah. I'm only 5'1". I'm kidding. No, I'm not. I'm 6 foot though. Yeah. Don't wear heels around me. I'll feel really insecure and short. Oh.
Yeah, it was a very tough time because I remember can you imagine, kids? They called me like werewolf. They called me a werewolf.
Kids can be nasty little creatures.
Like just brutal, right? And then being tall on top of that, that was always like tall, awkward, short hair. Like it was, but I guess it really did make me ultimately have a heart for, I hate bullies now, right? I hate bullies. Because I know what it's like to be bullied. I know, and so I'm such a fighter for the underdog, right? That really kind of.
You are, and I know you so well now. I know your heart, and I could never forget your birthday.
Oh my gosh, is that the craziest thing ever?
It is the craziest thing, yes.
Guys, okay, just so you know, so in the conversation, Ken and I, whenever we met, we were introduced through a friend, so she connected us. Jen, love Jen.
Yeah, love Jen.
She connected us, and we had a conversation. I think our first conversation was over an hour and a half.
It was a long time.
You just know whenever you really connect with people and you just have synergy, and it was, and then we were like, we have the same birthday. So write the day down, July 17. Yep. Send us cards and gifts. We'll accept them all.
Yep. We will. Unless they're hateful. So yeah, you're an amazing lady. And I think that, and do you know Kelly Williams?
I know. Let's see. Is this her right here?
Yeah. y'all are neighbors. She lives in Houston.
Oh, okay. Well, you know that Houston, Dallas.
I know. But her husband played for the Houston Oilers or Houston.
Oh, yeah. So
Paul.
I don't know how far ahead we jump here, but my first husband was drafted by the Houston Oilers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Small world. Probably know each other then. So what's Kima? Oh, that's where she lives. Kima? Kama? How do you say that? I don't even know how you say it.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
So you all right, so back to your story. So here you are. I want to go back to that 5-6 year old period.
Yeah.
Oh, she lives, yeah, she lives there. Okay. So you're going now, you start up visitations with your real dad.
Yeah.
Did you see him all the time?
No, he lived in, he lived in Utah, and so I would see him summers. I,
Okay.
I would leave and I would spend the summer with him, and I'd see his family, his mom, my aunts and uncles, and spend that time with them. And that was kind of how spent the school year with my mom, and then I would go see my dad during the summer times until I was like in seventh grade. And it was like, so in this time frame, like during my elementary school years, we moved a lot. We
Yeah.
moved all over West Texas. And so my sixth grade year was horrible, just horrible. I went through another bullying stage, like with the mean girls. This is where I had my mean girl experience. And
Wow.
I really got a taste for what mean girls really were. And it was one of those situations to where, and there's probably some women here could probably relate to and connect with this piece. And I rode the school bus again, right? And there was this group of girls, and there's always the ringleader. There was always that ringleader. And you would come in from the bus and you would come into the cafeteria and you would sit at the tables, and everybody would have their little clicky tables that you would sit with. And the most dreaded thing to have an experience with is your bus to be late, and for you to be the last person that comes to the table,
Yeah.
because they've already, that they've already started a conversation about you, and you were going to be the target for the day. And
Yeah.
that's the way my sixth grade year was. And typically my bus was always late, always.
Mm,
And
wow.
that was the most brutal year that I experienced in school.
And was it a new school for you, or
Yeah.
was it
It was one of those. It was one of those I
transition?
and I went from I went from Midland, Odessa, and then we moved to Amarillo. We moved
Okay.
back to Amarillo, and
Wow.
so I was the new girl. I was the tall girl. Right?
Wow.
I was those things. And so it was, but again, it was one of those really kind of learning experiences where you really start learning like what not to do and how not to treat people. And so, but my junior high, we ended up moving again, same city, but different set of dynamics as I started junior high school. And that was really, really great, fun years for me, because I was an athlete. I'd played basketball. And so that was like really became my team, or where I really created a big identity for myself, because I played volleyball, I did basketball, I did track. I was, and because of my height, that was really advantageous for me in major, you can see. And so I created my own space, right? I didn't have to, fit into somebody's clique. I just was able to be me and be authentic to who I was. And it was really, junior high for most kids is not fun, but it was fun for me. I remember it being like, I felt like I would change my life, right?
And did it carry over for you into high school?
Well, interestingly enough, I mean, like, so during my junior high school years, it was, I had the friends, I had, I was popular. I was class favorites and all of those things,
Wow.
all around athlete. I mean, I got all the accolades, right? But my family life was in turmoil. My dad, he was having an affair. My stepdad, he was having an affair. And it was at this time, whenever I started junior high, that I stopped going to see my dad during the summertime because I was wanting to be with my friends.
Yeah.
You want to have, in the summertime is whenever you really have your social life. You want to be with your peeps, and
Yeah.
you didn't want to miss out on anything. And so so at that point with my real father, whenever I stopped seeing him, he literally cut off all ties with me. And then my stepfather started having an affair and on my mom, and he moved out and moved in with the other woman. And so my family life was falling apart.
Wow.
And so, and all through the course of this, I feel really blessed because I had a set of praying grandparents, right? My mom was grown up in a Christian home and, was there every time the church doors opened.
Yeah.
But that wasn't me. Whenever, my grandmother, my Gaga, she's the one that always encouraged me to go to church. And so I was the girl that rode the church bus. I not only rode the school bus, but I rode the church bus.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like my anchor in all things, keeping myself together and keeping myself focused. But there came a time whenever, and I probably didn't really understand this, but my dad was my stepdad. He was such an authoritarian. It was not only did I have the school responsibilities, I was a straight A student. And it wasn't because, I kept straight A's, and that was expected. Straight A's was expected. It wasn't like celebrated. It was expected. And, I came home from school and duties, and I did laundry and helped get dinner started because my mom worked all the time. And so for me to get to do outside curricular or outside things with my friends, it was typically always a no. I would like clean, I would do the house, I would do anything and everything that my dad could possibly think of for me to do. And I was always afraid to ask, because typically it was going to be, well, did you do this? Well, did you do this? Well, did you do this?
Yeah.
And even after doing all those things, typically it would be a no. And so, I learned later on in life, whenever you create whenever you create everything around rules without relationship equals rebellion. And I didn't know that at the time. Rules,
yeah,
combined with without relationship
equals rebellion. Wow.
So you want you to think about it. You think about it as a parent today, whenever you have rules for your children, and there's disciplinary actions, but there's also comes a place where there's a relationship that goes with it. In other words, like, okay, I'm doing this for your own good, and it was just words, but there was actually a relationship to support that, it's not the only relationship you have is whenever you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. So during this time,
wow.
So during this time, I was like, I don't know that I actually thought this, but I was just like, what is this all for? I'm a good kid, I'm an athlete. My parent, I could count how many times my parents came to watch me do anything.
Wow.
And so, and that's okay, because my mom was, it just was different then. It was different. Yeah. Not like it really is now.
Right.
There just was, their focus was different than what was with me. And it was about at that time that I really kind of started going through a real rebellious thing. There was this older guy, And so he was in high school and I was at the junior high school. And, this was like in my 9th grade year, and he was a junior. Now that's a big difference. And so I would be walking home from school and he would be driving by, and I guess I caught his eye. I don't know. And so he started pursuing me. Well, anybody knows that if you have a daughter that age and that age difference, probably not a healthy situation. And,
right.
he wasn't the A+ guy by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he was, it's not like he was he was popular, but not in a probably great way to be popular. He wasn't the quarterback of the football team by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
But he was paying me attention, and so he was popular in a lot of circles, probably not the best of circles. And I succumbed to that. And and I started sneaking around, and I wasn't promiscuous by any stretch of the imagination, but I put myself in situations now whenever I think about it and like going, oh my gosh, like that was crazy of me. Crazy.
Yeah.
Just doing like telling my mom that I was going to stay the night at so-and-so, and we would go out and we'd be out all night. We wouldn't be anywhere. We didn't get in any trouble. We weren't doing drugs or anything crazy like that.
Right.
But we put ourselves definitely in harm's way, not even just out of total ignorance. Right.
And don't you think about that? I mean, I know you have kids now, and I mean, don't you think about like, I'm sorry, but no, you're not spending. I know what I did when I spent the night over there, and no is the answer.
Oh, like, listen, I always told the girls, like, you can listen, there's not very many places you can put your feet that I haven't already walked. So
right.
Just going with that one.
Right.
And I just, as you have, and especially because I have 3 girls, I've always said, it's like, Lord, please don't make me pay for my raising.
I know. So you, and I have 2 girls, so God has a sense of humor.
Yes.
So I was just thinking about something. When you're a kid, like, let's just go from here you are at 5 years old, kidnapped by your father at gunpoint, and didn't see your mom for almost a year. No communication at all with her.
No.
Like, and you're then 6. Did you just plug in your laptop?
I did.
That's what that, I know every sound that apples make. No, it's fine. So you go through all of this insanity as a kid, and then your mom marries your stepdad. Things start going sideways there. And it's, as a kid, it's hard to, and I can say this because I can relate to this. You don't tell anybody, or if anyone, it's going to have to be somebody very, very close that you trust, because kids can be nasty. And so you want to fit in with other kids. So you just don't tell anybody what's going on at home.
No, it's one of those things that, there's a lot of kind of shame associated with it. There's a lot of, it's like, especially whenever your friends and people that you're hanging out with, and you see their family and they have, they don't even know what divorce is. I mean,
right.
they're still with their parents. They're still, they've got siblings, and I'm the only child. Right. So, I don't even have that outlet. I don't even have that piece of, or anybody that I can connect to that can be my confidant, that we can share in the conversations and still have safety and privacy. Right.
Yeah.
So it was real. It was really, really hard. And so, so here I am. My dad finds out about this. My stepdad, I'll call my stepdad, and my mom find out about this guy. So they were like, now keep in mind, my mom and dad are going through all their turmoil stuff and all of their junk.
Were they divorced?
No, they were still married.
He moved out into some other woman's house and they didn't get a divorce?
Now my mom, and so my mom, bless her heart, like, she's such a saint. She is a total saint. I mean, but I just remember her being so crushed, so broken, so crushed.
That's so sad.
And I just, whenever you're that age, I don't know that you have the real capacity to be able to facilitate and harness or shoulder that kind of emotion.
Yeah.
As a parent, you see it, but how do you support? You don't even know what emotional support looks like, really, because I'm hanging on for dear life myself.
Sure.
Like, I don't have the wherewithal to even though I know my mom's hurting, I visibly can see it. I don't have the maturity to be able to, embrace her or to be able to love her through all of those things that she's experiencing, because I'm just I'm just trying to live my life and hang on for dear life and, on this, this thing we call life roller coaster anyway.
Right.
And so she did not divorce him. She stayed married to him. And so whenever she started seeing there was trouble with me and I was starting to, go wayward, then she started trying to bring him back into the picture, and he started trying to jump into the picture while he's still living in another, I'm like, no.
Right.
And so, I mean, I'm a very, very, very strong-willed, very strong. Like, I've got a lot of Indian blood in me.
I can confirm that you're very strong-willed. I can confirm that.
Very strong. So, I mean, like, I was like, and so my dad came in and he moved back in, and so I resented him. And so he's put his foot down and he grounded me. And he grounded me for the rest of my life. That was what the words that he used.
Wow.
Now,
ninth grade and 11th grade is not that big of a difference. That's 2 years. Yeah.
Well, okay. So maybe I fudged a little bit. Maybe I was in 8th grade. I think it was like maybe 8th, 9th grade. Maybe.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You have to understand. So Ken, think about this. I'm July 17th. We're summer babies. So I started, I was young.
Yeah.
When I started school.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. I get it.
I graduated when I was 17.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was way younger than any in my class. So that made me even more the bigger age differential. It didn't matter about the grades. It was differential.
Yeah.
So, he grounded me for the rest of my life. Well, now I want you to think about it. This is a time there was no cell phones. There was no internet. There was no computer. There was there was only phones wired to the wall. So
that went like you had to do that to dial a number.
We were a little ahead of the game. We had a little
push button.
Right?
Those came, yes, eventually. I know I'm older than you, so
it was attached to the wall. So there wasn't any sneaking your cell phone in the closet somewhere.
Nope.
Mobile.
Sending a text.
No, that didn't exist. So I want you to think about my job. I came home from school. I did my work, and there was no phone calls. There was no communication outside of what I got at school.
And this was on a farm.
Now this particular time, now keep in mind, I'm moving around. So at this time we're living in Amarillo, Texas. So we're living in a city, but there's no communication. I have no connection with anybody. And after 6 months of this, 6 months,
Holy crap.
you know, and now during the time that I was grounded for the rest of my life, my parents, while they were trying to put their marriage back together, and they've got me, the little hellion, just like, I mean, they went off for the weekend, and I was supposed to be staying with one of our friends, and I found the keys. I was supposed to be staying with a friend. I found the keys to my mom's car, and we stayed out all night long in my mom's car.
My gosh.
And my neighbor called my mom, and he was about to call the police, and he called my mom, and he's like, "Linda, your car's gone." And she was like, and everybody knew it was me.
Wow.
Everybody knew it was me. And my neighbor, his name is Bob, and I'll never forget. He was like, you have complete control over this situation. You do know that.
Wow.
And it was it was really eye-opening for me. And it was really like, it was like, I really need to get my act together. I really do. I mean, and that was kind of, and it was just coming, I think it's because it was my parents, and there was so much resistance that caused that rebellion, because without rules, without relationship equals rebellion. That's where I was. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I need to get on another path. Well, so that kind of really changed things for me. I really started to really straighten it up. And by this time I'm going into high school. So high school was 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
And so I go into high school, and so this was a big deal. I go into high school, try for the volleyball team, and I made varsity as a sophomore. Now, wow, big deal. Right. Where I'm from, and really just, up for homecoming princess. And I was just really just things started really coming together again. And my life just really getting back on track and really focused, and started thinking about maybe going to college. Didn't know. Well, then my mom and my dad, they decided they wanted to move.
And you're in Amarillo.
I'm in Amarillo, and they decided that they wanted to buy. Now get this. So my mom was a nurse by trade. She was a registered nurse. My dad was a private pilot. And they decided they wanted to start a business, buy a business, an RV business and campground. Now, wow. So this was in the 80s, and their money was flowing. It was time of Reagan, and everything was great. So, and I was pissed. Excuse my language. Mm. Here I'm going to be a junior in high school, and they want to move. This is the longest I've ever lived in one place in my life. So these were my friends that I'd started with 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade. I finally had, and I'd gone through all of this turmoil, and all through all these years, these were my people. Those were my tribe. That was my connection while my mom and dad were doing all their craziness. Yeah. And now they want to uproot me from everything. I'm an athlete. I have a, everything I knew to be my life.
Good God.
And they wanted to move. Now, keep in mind, I'm living in Amarillo, Texas. My class was like 450 people. We moved to Abilene, Texas, outside the skirts of Abilene, Texas, off of I-20, bought a campground and RV sales. And the school that I was supposed to go to, or slated to go to, was Eula, Texas. Now, if you're from Texas, and I know Texas is big, but nobody knows where Eula, Texas is. But nobody knows where Eula, Texas is. Nobody.
Eula, Y-U-L-A?
E-U-L-A.
E-U-L-A. I can't even spell it right.
Right, because there's no stoplight, there's nothing.
Oh, my Lord, have mercy.
So I'm supposed to go to this school. Now, we go look at this school. There is 350 people, 350 students, kindergarten through 12.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
There was 22 people in my class.
Shut up. Are you serious? In the entire class?
Yeah.
Colleen lives in Texas. She knows where it is.
Yeah, Eula, Texas. And so we went out there and I'm like, oh dear God. Oh my God. And I'm like going at the school and I'm like, like, what do you guys do for fun? They were like, well, we go to the bowling alley or, we go. I'm like, what? Now I'm the big city girl coming into this little bitty podunk farm school.
Oh
and I'm thinking, oh my God. I mean, I really wanted to die. I so wanted to die. Right.
Wow.
But the saving grace was this, Ken. The saving grace was the basketball team, the girls basketball team had just went to state the previous year. And I was like, that was the only thing that I was like,
you're like, basketball's my jam.
So I mean, I was like, So I came in, the coach, and so like everybody's like, here I am, the tall girl again. Right? I mean, I was 5'11". I was 5'11". I was 5'11" in 8th grade.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I mean, I grew.
So you joined the basketball team. I'm assuming things went well for you on the basketball team.
They went very well. And I mean, it became my identity.
Yeah.
It became my identity, and I always say that environment is stronger than will. And, whenever I look back, I know that was part of God's plan for me. Because, it got me out of that environment.
Yeah.
As an Amarillo, that really, whenever I look back, it wasn't the ideal environment. It wasn't the kind of people that the mindset, where there was futuristic, where it's real positive. There was, because people were still, no matter it was a bigger city, they were still stuck in their own circles of, it wasn't the positive place to be. And I come to this little bitty farm school, and, everybody's an athlete. All the people in my circle, we did basketball. We ate, played, drank, swim. I mean, everything was basketball.
Wow.
And my circle of people, because there was a little bitty church there, the Eula Baptist Church, that's where most of my friends hung out. And we went to church Wednesday night, Sunday and Sunday night. And there was an incredible youth group. There was incredible camaraderie. And it was just such an environment that, I was on the yearbook stuff. And I got to wear all of these many different hats and be involved in all of these many different processes, that probably in a larger school I wouldn't have been as involved with,
Wow.
Queen, all of those things that really made, and we had so much fun in basketball, and we crushed it. We dominated.
A couple of things, like what happened to the older dude you were dating?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sure he left the picture when you moved to Eula.
Okay, so I left out a kind of a little significant piece in there. So I'll backtrack. I'll roll back a little bit.
Yeah.
Whenever I was in that transition in part of the eye-opening experience, because, as he had eyes for me, there was a girl that it was in his grade that was older than me. that that was his, they
Mm.
together, and I was the threat. I was the threat. And before I went into high school, so I was still in ninth grades. She was a senior, and I went to a volleyball game. I was there with one of my friends, and three of her friends jumped me. And I know, like,
Oh,
women can't really think about this, but they literally jumped me outside of school, and
wow.
they beat the ever living crap out of me.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, like,
Wow.
they broke my nose.
Oh no.
I had to have surgery. I
Oh
mean,
my gosh.
they beat the hell out of me.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
and it was pretty eye-opening, because I knew that he was, it's because of the way he handled all of this stuff. And I was just like, man, like, I just don't want to be involved in all that.
Yeah, right, right.
It's not, I don't want anyway, it just wasn't worth it. And so I think that was, that was probably my breaking point with that situation. So whenever I reflect back on, even though I resisted the moving part, I look back on it and I know that it was God directing my steps. I know that it was God's plan for me. And it was his best for me
Yeah.
in that moment, in that time. And even though I resisted it, hindsight, looking back, I'm so thankful, grateful, to, be pulled out of that, to be immersed into another environment that was really put me in another path of really greatness. Right. And so I'm very thankful for that. So, basketball just became my life. I mean, with my friends, it was, it set me on a path to get a scholarship. My biggest challenge was that I had a physical issue, which is, they call it now, they call it chronic dislocating shoulders. So, like, it wasn't anything for me to dislocate one, if not both, of my shoulders in a game.
Oh my gosh.
And so there was two of my teammates that knew how to help me get my shoulder back into the socket.
That is awful.
I know.
That just sounds painful.
It was.
Oh my gosh.
It was really bad. It was really painful, but I loved it so much I didn't want to give it up. And we went to state. I was an all-state player. I got several offers to play basketball, but I knew
In college.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you Taylor, this is an hour-long show. We're 48 minutes into it and we're still in high school. No, your story is amazing. We're going to go over, and that's okay, because I want to hear, number one, did you end up going to college?
Yes.
Did you play basketball in college?
No.
Did you graduate college?
Yes.
Did you? What'd you study?
I studied, I had a Bachelor of Science in physiology and kinesiology with a business minor
Wow.
So yeah, no, it was, yeah, I had 3 jobs, then worked my way through school. So I gave up a full ride, a scholarship, because I knew that I couldn't physically.
Oh, because of the shoulder.
Yeah.
Colleen says she has the same thing.
Yeah.
She says it's caused from flaccidity in the joints.
Yes. Yes. They didn't know what caused it. They were trying to do, they were saying they could surgically repair it, but I would probably have, you think back then, it was a long time ago. I mean, this is like a few years ago. Like, they didn't have the technology probably now that could probably repair it. I don't know. But I mean, it was just one of those things that it wasn't worth it to me. Even though financially it could have been, physically, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
And so I had to make a decision, that I had to walk away from that part of my life.
Wow.
which was hard because that was kind of my identity, right? I mean, I walked into college without having that security,
Yeah.
that being such a big part of who I was, that I walked away from. And so it was kind of like, I felt like I was walking into college without my security blanket, you know?
Yeah.
And, but it was great because, I mean, I got involved in other things. I mean, they had a, you know, hospitality deal. I was one of the models that they did, a modeling group on campus that modeled for various stores and places. I was involved. I wasn't in a sorority, but I was a fraternity little sister. That was a lot of fun. Because I got the Greek life without the responsibility, and I made a lot of great friends. And
wow.
So that was really great. But it was a challenge though, because I had 3 jobs. I would open up, there was a Gold's Gym there, and I opened up the gym at 5 a.m.
Wow.
I went to class from 9 to 12. I worked at Firestone as a part-time bookkeeper from 1 to 5. And then I taught aerobic classes. I had a 5:30 aerobic class that I taught.
Wow.
And then I worked the 3rd shift at the Johnson & Johnson plant teaching ergonomics.
Good Lord, have mercy. Wow. And was this in Texas? Is that where you went?
This was so I went from Abilene. So I went to a school called Angelo State University, which is in San Angelo, which was about an hour and a half south of Abilene, which was really great for me because it was still kind of close to home. And, to kind of back up, so here I'm left for college, and my mom and dad, with the oil, I don't know if you remember the oil and the crash, and people stopped traveling, people stopped buying RVs. Everything crashed. My mom and dad lost their business. So while I was going off to college, my parents were they were losing everything. They were going through bankruptcy. They were losing everything. So I didn't have the financial support. I was literally, whenever I moved out, I was out. I'm on my own. There ain't nobody around to help. It was me. You've heard that, if it's to be, it's up to me. That was pretty much what was happening.
Joe Ingram, Joe.
Yeah.
He just said a minute ago, OMG, it's Taylor. You guys met, I think you met through Clubhouse or something, didn't you? Or
yeah.
So he says, so you were slacking. There was still 5 hours left in the day.
I think about that now, and I'm thinking, oh my God.
How did I do that?
How did I do that?
Yeah, that's insane.
I literally don't know how I physically did it.
Can you imagine one of your kids doing that?
Are you serious?
No, I'm not.
God, I'm
probably watching right now.
I swung the pendulum so far away from that. No, I have beautiful girls.
You do. So along the way, because I want to get to the part where you become a multimillionaire. So because I put that in the title, I want to get to this. We're going to talk about the book. We got a lot to talk about, but here is, and I forgot to ask you to share this out on your Facebook page from your phone. Yeah, you can if you want.
Okay.
While I'm crafting my question. So, you go through college, you're doing all this stuff, you graduate college, you have your degree.
Let's back up.
Back up.
Because this is a very significant part of the story.
Oh, okay.
So
what happens in college?
I met my first husband. Met my first husband, and he was a 12-time All-American track and field guy, discus and hammer, super duper fast. He was, he was the campus he was the campus stud, if you will. And we started dating, and we were engaged within 6 months of us started dating.
Wow.
But it was a very, very volatile situation. So he was, he was the jock. And so whenever by 6 months into it, I mean, whenever he asked me to marry him, it wasn't because I was excited to say yes, but I was afraid to say no.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It was like that.
Yeah, it was very much like that.
Oh, that sucks.
Nobody knew, nobody knew what it was like and what was going on. And I mean, the first time I tried to break our engagement, and I ran out, I broke up and I started literally running, and he chased me down the block. He ran a 4.40, so he obviously, wow. I can't run that fast.
Wow.
And threw me over his shoulders and toted me back into his apartment, and with his hands around my throat, and said, "Nobody will ever love you like I love you." So.
Wow. That sounds really loving. Wow.
I mean, it was, it was, I look back on that and I'm like, I realized as much confidence as I had on the outside, I realized I just didn't have the wherewithal and the confidence on the inside, because who do you turn to? Right. My mom, I think my mom knew, but I didn't want my mom to be right. My mom had already experienced this, right? So yep. She knew the signs. She already knew all of those things. And, I kept trying to look at the, check the all box, because he's this, he's this, he's this, he's this, he's got an amazing family, he's this. He checks all the boxes.
Right.
But they weren't really the right boxes. And I could not escape it. And I don't even know how, and I think that I went through the process as a lot of women do, thinking, okay, well, it'll get better. It'll get better. And so I graduated and he was drafted. So he went on to play. No, I graduated in May. And he had one semester left of eligibility, and he played football. So he played 2 semesters of football where he was an All-American. That season, he ended up getting drafted by the Houston Oilers.
Wow.
So he was drafted by the Houston Oilers, and he ended up being traded to the LA Raiders. So we're married at the time, and while he was in camp, and while he was with the Raiders in camp, the first time I flew into LA. It was during the riots.
Jeez.
I mean, LA was on fire, and I remember flying over LA, my first time into LA, and I'm flying in to tell him I'm pregnant.
Wow. That's 89, 90, somewhere in there.
That was 90. That was 93.
93. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. 93. And I'm flying in to tell him I'm pregnant, and with our first baby. And so so he goes through camp. We ended up moving to Los Angeles. And I'm right at 6 weeks away from delivery at this point. And, so we find a place to live. We sent for our furniture. Our furniture hasn't even arrived. We're living in our new house. And I have my first doctor's visit. And I go to my first doctor's visit to meet my new doctor, and they can't find a heartbeat.
Oh man.
And so, I just remember going through this, Ken, like going, what? Like this, what? And the realization, and then whenever you realize what's happening, and you're like, you just want it to go away. You just want it to, like, okay, I got to get out of here. And I realize I can't leave my own body because I'm here. And they're telling me, like, no, you have to have this baby.
Ugh.
And so, so I literally go from the day I'm supposed to meet meet my new doctor. It's supposed to be I know nobody. We have no furniture. We are not even moved in.
Wow.
And they're telling me they're getting ready to induce me to have a baby that's not going to be alive whenever I have it. And they tell me it's going to be 48 hours. And they start inducing me and going through the process. And
oh my God.
And I just remember being like, this can't be my life. This just can't be happening, because I was, I did everything right, Ken. I did everything right. I didn't drink. I didn't drink coffee. I didn't have, how can this be happening? And, but God was so gracious, because, it wasn't 48 hours. It was less than 12. And I had her on September 15th of 1992. Apologize, 1992. Was it 93? 92. And I was at a little company of Mary, and they encouraged me to hold her, and I'm so thankful that I did, because you just, when you're in that place, you just want to escape. And I just remember leaving the hospital and feeling so empty and feeling so lost. And it was such a crazy time. But you know what? But God, like, the players' wives that were really strong believers, they came in and they wrapped their arms around me, and they just brought me into their tribe, and they loved on me, and it was wow. Such a beautiful, beautiful time. And I got involved with this lady's Bible study, and God, it was really, because I remember, my granddad, my papa. So I remember my Gaga. Now there's my papa. Whenever we were moving to California, and he said, okay, because I'm Southern Baptist.
Right. In California, that fits really well together.
He said, okay, now don't you go get involved in none of those charismatic churches out there. And what did I do? I go to the First Church.
And it's charismatic. That is so funny. Oh my gosh.
It was like so amazing. Like, this is the first time, like, I felt the Holy Spirit. I was like, when I felt a love, and I felt this, oh my God, I was like immersed in this.
Yeah.
And, and I was so involved with this Bible study and these women, and 6 weeks later, I'm pregnant again.
Wow.
And, so that was like a journey in and of itself, like, because I was like, just, I was like probably a little disconnected.
Yeah.
And so at this time, my husband, Kyle, he had a career-ending injury. He had torn his Achilles tendon. He's going through rehab. We're pregnant. We have a baby. We don't know what our future holds. We're living in California. So so it's just, but God was just so gracious to us, right? So gracious. And so they ended up cutting him. Then that's a whole nother story. But anyway, we ended back up in Lubbock, Texas. I had a 4-week-old baby at the time.
Wow.
And he's going back to school. We're living back in Lubbock, full circle again, not where I wanted to be. This is where I am. I find myself full circle, West Texas again. I'm like, with a baby and not knowing what the future held. And that's whenever I started my network marketing journey. It was, mom care versus daycare. I wanted an extra $800. That was enough to just keep me, even with my degree at that time, that kept me, where I could take care of her and not work outside the home while he was going to school. And that was where my mindset was. And that was set me on my journey to find different things that I could do. And that's what set me on the trail for network marketing. And,
Wow.
and I got started.
Laura's dad is a Southern Baptist preacher.
Well, okay. Nothing against Southern Baptist. Don't get me wrong, because it was my roots and it was my base and it was my foundation. And it's really, I think, was really what's God's grace and mercy that kept me surviving through this whole process. It's just, it definitely looked different than what I'd ever experienced before. And I'm so thankful to have that kind of spiritual experience, because it was something that it's kept me moving from this point forward. Right. But, but that's where I started my network marketing journey, Ken. And wow. My goal was just to make an extra $800 a month. I got started my very first month. I made $2,400. My very,
of course you did. You're Taylor Thompson. And this is in Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah.
Colleen says that's the worst place she's ever lived in Texas.
Well, I can't say it's the worst place because 2 of my children were born there. So, I'm thankful for that part, but it is a brutal place as far as weather. It is brutal. Yeah. But it was, so I was very, very fortunate because, this is kind of where this thing comes into play, because I had a set of these tapes, inside of my,
show the book.
This is the Millionaire Training. So it was an audio tapes that were included, that were given to me whenever I first started. And so whenever I first got started, this lady right here, Tish Roisin, she was the first Herbalife distributor in the state of Texas. And she happened to be my upline, and not my direct upline, but she was my upline, which happens to be Larry's sister. And I'll get to that part, but she was the first Herbalife distributor in the state of Texas. And so she was really an integral part, of Millionaire Training. And really it was just basic fundamentals and basic concepts that the stay-at-home mom who had never had any business experience was able to take and apply these concepts and work this business around around my family, around what I was doing. But here's the thing, what ended up happening, Ken, it was that the more success that I had, the more turmoil it created in my home. I didn't really talk about all the things that were happening, in my marriage and my relationship. And, as long as I was the arm piece, if you will, things were pretty decent. Right. But the more that I became independent, the more money that I made, the more success I had, the more tumultuous my home life became.
Yeah.
Because I was a threat. It was threatening. It was threatening to him. And so the more money I had, the more independent, the more mindset, the more confidence, all of those things that started happening. And
was he working? It sounds like the NFL was over. So what?
The NFL was over. And, and it was one of those things like, my mindset was, I was growing mentally, my confidence was growing. And I know he felt it, because that's not what he was doing. Right. Yeah. So it's almost like, don't be don't be unequally yoked.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Ultimately what was taking place.
Right.
And he felt it and he was experiencing it. And the more that happened, the more accolades I got, the more success what happened, the more angry and the more tumult. It was, and nobody knew. And here's the thing, like I always say, you never know what's happening behind closed doors.
Right.
We were to look at our family. So here I'm going through. So we had I had Kyla, my firstborn. Then we had Candace, my secondborn. And the success climbing and more money. And
From you.
yeah, so because he graduated and he went to be in a coach. He was a high school coach. Well, high school coaches don't make much money.
Right.
When they're
Nothing against high school coaches, because they can be important, but,
yeah,
they don't make a lot of money.
nothing wrong with that's what he
Yeah.
do. I'm not saying that at all. So
Yeah, right. No, I know.
I'm not downing that in any
No,
way.
I know you're not. Yeah.
I mean, it's so. I mean, because I mean, it was just it was the dynamics. It was the
Right.
it was it was the dynamics that was the problem. And so, you know, it was how do I mean, you know, he was it was just a big threat. It was just it.
Did you ever say to yourself, like, wow, I'm in the same marriage that my mother was in with my real father?
Every day.
Wow. So you knew it.
I knew it. And
I mean, the fact that you were afraid to say no to the wedding proposal.
Yeah.
Is
by the time, you know, whenever I found out I was pregnant with the third baby, I mean, I knew I was in dire straits. I was really in dire straits. And the thing about it is, it was such a big secret because we had put on such a facade with church. I had an aerobics ministry at our church. We were highly involved in our church.
Wow.
Everybody on you know, people like knew us as a family. He wasn't involved with church. He wasn't involved with my business. He was they just saw what they saw. It was like this picture perfect family.
Yeah.
And so as a woman, you can once you cross that line and expose that, there's no turning back. So as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, I'm like protecting. My mom didn't even know. My mom did not know. My mom did not know that I was having to call the police. 911.
Wow.
My mom didn't know that.
Holy crap.
And so, you know, the breaking point for me was one night is one night whenever he threw me across the room with my my smallest one in my arms. Whenever he threw me across the room and she was in my arms after he had spit in my face, it was almost like this. I'm such a visual person. You know, I felt like there was this emotional cord that was attached, and there was these big scissors that just went shoop. And I was done.
That was it.
I was done.
Wow.
And I remember that as clear as a bell. There was no recourse. There was no, I knew what I needed to do. I knew what I had to do. And I literally packed up the girls.
Where was he?
He was there, but he told me, after this is a whole book in and of itself.
Yeah.
But the reality is that I knew it was going to take more to get him out of the house than me just packing up. And I just packed up the girls. I took our belongings and I moved a few blocks away from where we were living at the time because I didn't want to take my kids away from him, but I had to get out.
Wow.
So we had the first day that we were living within a couple of blocks, he broke into my house and he brutalized me in front of our kids.
Oh my God.
And that's whenever I knew that there was no hope.
Did you have him arrested?
They they came and oh gosh. There is a whole big story that goes with this, but I will tell you, that's whenever I filed for divorce. That's whenever I had I had all the documentation. I had all the things, and he wanted to fight me for custody.
Jeez.
So and so now I want you to keep in mind. Now this is where this gets a little crazy here.
You don't have to share all of it. You don't have to go into that if you don't.
No, it's just a part of the story, and it's just a part of the journey though. But
Yeah.
long story short, and we may have to do a part 2 at some point, but long story short, we live in a good old boy system. And after
Yeah.
he had, and so we're in a custody battle, and long story short, he got his mom up on the stand and told the judge that I was, abusing the children. And, keep in mind that he is the hometown hero. He's the football.
Wow.
Okay. And so it didn't matter that I had 10 different character witnesses for me, and he only had his mom. And while I was telling my story of our whole marriage and the abusive and and I had all the documentation of all the police reports, et cetera, I had a judge that was sleeping in my ear, literally snoring in my ear while I was telling my story.
Oh my God.
And I had an attorney motioning for me to keep going. Instead of saying judge and putting it on the record, he hand motioned for me to keep talking. As
The judge fell asleep in the courtroom while you were telling your. That's insane. Wow.
This is Texas.
Colleen says, "Yep, especially in Texas." Wow.
And so so Ken, it was I lost custody of my 3 daughters in that courtroom.
Oh my God.
I lost custody to a man, that and it's
Wow.
like that was probably the deepest pit of my entire life in that moment.
Wow.
And because everything that I'd done, everything that I built was for them. Mom care versus daycare, everything was so I could be a stay-home mom.
Wow.
And so that was that's a whole nother journey, and certainly a whole nother book. But I will tell you, God was so good and so gracious. And there was many tears, but it didn't stop the fight. And it didn't, even though, and I found out, and here's the thing, and our whole legal system is pretty much screwed up, but I will tell you that, 3 months later, I found out that judge was diagnosed with narcolepsy, but because my attorney did not have it on the record, I couldn't go back and negate the ruling. And so, it became a journey of court battles and over again. But this man was the man that I had to take him to court just so I could have phone privileges with my children.
Jiminy Christmas.
He moved them 100 miles away from me.
Oh my God.
Illegally, he moved them 100 miles away from me. And I can't even tell you how much money I spent on legal battles. And so even though the judge would not the judge wouldn't file charges on him, or the judge wouldn't hold him in contempt, even though that was against the court order. I mean, there was so much. This is so West Texas.
But you were still working on your network marketing business
the whole time.
And just so everybody knows, because we gotta I have a hard stop in 10 minutes, but so you ended up meeting Larry, your husband, who is a phenomenal human being.
Yeah.
And he's the co-founder of Herbalife.
Yes.
And so he knows a thing or two.
He knows a thing or two. And in the midst of all of in the midst of all of my turmoil, I had met Larry. I was in the throes of all this. I had met Larry. I had been working with Larry. I was still building my business. And it changed everything. It catapulted everything. And, I don't know if people believe in love at first sight, but the first time that I met my mentor, I definitely say it was love at first. And we became the best of friends, even though he was living in California, I was living in Texas, going through all of this. We became the best of friends, and not just friends, but really spiritual confidants. And after we first started having our conversations, we had our first date 18 months afterwards.
Wow. 18 months.
18 months. So he has a whole nother story, you know, because he was battling chronic fatigue, and I was the first person that he told that he had been battling chronic fatigue. And so we got to he moved to Texas. We ended up, we got married. He has a beautiful relationship with my 3 daughters. He has 3 daughters. I have 3 daughters. Between us, we have 6 daughters.
Wow.
And so we started our own company. Then we started our own consulting. And what we did in the process, it's just been really quite amazing. It's such a beautiful story of how God restores.
Yeah.
And because I know you have a hard stop because
no, you keep go. Well, you got time.
So it's fortunately, I mean, God just always has a plan, and so in the midst of all of these things happening, that in my personal life, he was so good, and he brought Larry in my life, and I had moved from Lubbock. We were now living in Dallas, and I was driving back and forth to West Texas to do their to go to their games, to be the class mom, to do their class parties. I put 250,000 miles on my SUV, driving back and forth to West Texas to be involved in every aspect of their life in Snyder, Texas, and West Texas. But, I needed to be in Dallas to continue to build our business and what we were doing.
Right.
And in the process of all of that, God was so gracious. He restored them. They all came home. And, my scripture in the process, Ken, was that God would restore all the years. It's in Joel 2, that God would restore all the years that the locust had eaten. And in Jeremiah 31, whenever it says, Rachel will weep no more. Her children will be restored from the enemy's land. Yes, they will be restored. And I would start. Those were my words. Those were my scriptures. And Psalms 32, if you would, Lord, I pray that you would fight against those who fight against me, and you would contend with those who contend with me. And you would send the angel of the Lord pursuing them. I really learned how to do, really war with God's word. And I think about that now, and I think about where, with business, and I think about how I learned how to be such a praying mom, how to be a praying wife, how to be a praying warrior, and praying and declaring and decreeing God's word to be true. And I know that it works, because whenever I look at my girls and everything that the enemy meant for harm, how God made for good, I mean, how is it that you can graduate 3 beautiful girls from high school, because they ended up all coming here with Larry and me under this roof? They all graduated with their virginities intact. I mean, I know that people, maybe there may be some naysayers going, oh yeah, I'm sure, but I just know that I know what God did and how God protected them, and how they love their relationship with the Lord, and how we've come together as a family, and what's happened as a result of our business, with what Larry and I've been able to do, and the impact that we've had, not only nationally, but internationally. I mean, we just mentored he's done, with his experience with Herbalife and the Millionaire Training, that's one thing. And all these people, whenever you look at the contributors, all the people that he's mentored to well over multi-million, but we just helped our second company to $1 billion in sales in 2019.
Wow.
And so God has been so good and so gracious to continue to provide, and with resources and building relationships in the midst of everything. And so I always say people have 2 different lives that they're living. They have a personal life that they're dealing with, and they're having, a business life that they're dealing with. And sometimes they are not always, there's the yin and the yang. Your business life may be rocking it, but your personal life may be in the toilet, right? So
Right.
there's always the yin and the yang. But here's the thing, no matter what, and what I've learned in this journey and in through this process is that if you just keep your eyes on the Lord, he really is so gracious to direct your steps. And he is the ultimate source. He is the ultimate resource. And with this book, I truly believe that, we started this book club, Ken, and it's the millionairetraining.com. Yeah. And these are concepts, I don't want you to think about concepts never end. Concepts, principles, that's what the scripture is. It's principles, right? They never change. They meet you where you are. So many people in our space and network marketing, they're trying to learn tactics. They're trying to learn where to go, what to do, what to say. 7 steps to 7 figures. They're buying all these courses and they're buying all this stuff to try to, learn more, to do more. And so it's not about that. It's about learning it's run, hit, catch, throw. Baseball has fundamentals. And if you learn how to do the fundamentals, you can either be in little league, you can be in minor league, or you can be in the major leagues. But at the end of the day, they still teach fundamentals: run, hit, catch, throw. Yep. Basketball, dribble, pass, shoot. There's fundamentals in every sport, and there's fundamentals in your business. And whenever you learn the fundamentals, then you can implement any tactic that you want and have success. But you have to have the foundation. You have to have a strong foundation in order to have something to build on. And that's where the missing piece is from my perspective. Whenever you look at people in business nowadays, they're looking for the magic dust. They're looking for the magic bullet. And it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You have to put the time in. You have to put the energy in. You have to develop the muscle. You have to go to the gym. You have to lift the weights. I can sit there and tell you how to lift the weights, but at the end of the day, you have to go to the gym and lift the weights for yourself to receive any benefit of it. And that's the whole key that I learned in my journey, and having the success is that, you have to do your job description every day, no matter what's happening in your personal life. No matter what, you have to keep moving. You have to keep moving. If you don't, you will succumb. You will be rolled over like a steamroller. You have to get your eyes up. You have to lift your eyes up, and you have to keep taking and moving your step, one foot in front of the other, no matter where you are, no matter what's going on in your life. As an entrepreneur, that's our job. That's our job.
I feel like I just went to church.
Woo, woo. Well, pass the plate.
So, Taylor, you are amazing. And I know you've got some big fans on here now for sure. So where is the best place for everyone to follow you on social media?
Well, the best place, if they want to join our book club, the millionairetraining.com. But I have a women's network too. So
you do?
Yes, I have the She Network.
Talk about that real quick.
So the She Network, Sharing Her Excellence Network, which is just for women entrepreneurs. There's a free group there. I do have a platform, where we have women training, and all various top earners come in and train on my platform. That's a membership platform. But Larry and Taylor, whenever Larry and Taylor, we go clubbing every Friday. That's our book club. It's a free place. You can go to the Millionaire Training. You can get a download and a free chapter of the book, How to Employ Yourself. So if you're an entrepreneur, it's a great foot in the door. And if you're building a business, it's a great way for you to bring people to see, who are you actually working with? Do they know how to employ themselves? And get them involved. We go clubbing every Friday on our Facebook group, and we have special guests, but we talk about these principles. We talk about the foundation, and then and then if you want to take it to the next step, you can come join us inside of our academy, which we really take you by the hand and help you build your business.
And we're going to get Larry on the show as well, right?
Yeah.
So, and I want to talk a little bit about, Larry started, from what I understand, hawking Herbalife products out of the trunk of his car. And
he actually started in 1968. He joined the same company the same day, Bestline Products, as Jim Rohn. And
wow.
so he has a great, great story. He started with the original tactician of network marketing. Bobby DePew was his mentor. That was in 1968. He started as a long-haired hippie construction worker. So he had a vast experience before he started with Mark Hughes in Herbalife in 1980. And there's a significant part of the story. And that's all in the book, too. There's if you're network marketing, there is a history that we talk about this. And here's the thing, like, you know, I want you to think about, I mean, all of these people, you talk about Jeff Roberti, $100 million man in network marketing. I mean, he started with Larry as a broke waiter. All of these people were basic people, but, you know, he started in the 60s, you know, whenever it wasn't even multi-level, it was pyramiders. It wasn't even a legal industry at that point. And so he had a vast experience going into Herbalife that really changed the complexion of network marketing and where network marketing went and the leaders that came out of it and where we currently are. So there is a whole story that goes along with this. So if you want to go learn more about that, you can go to wealthbuilding.pro and you can learn more about the 4 generations of network marketing.
And I, you know, part of the thing is I know Larry took, you know, helped. He was very significant in taking Herbalife from, I mean, they were small, right? They were still pretty.
Well, so Mark, so there's a little story here, and I'll give you guys a little tidbits. Whenever Larry comes on, you'll get to hear it. But whenever he met, so significant, 68, he met Jim Rohn. He went on to, another company back in 1978. Same day, he was invited by Larry Huff. Larry Huff started Bestline Products. My husband, Larry Thompson, joined the same company the same day as Mark Hughes. Larry went on to become the vice president of Golden Youth Marketing, and Mark Hughes was the #1 distributor. Whenever those doors closed, Mark asked Larry, "Hey, I want to start my own company. You want to come with me?" And that all started. Larry wrote the marketing plan. Larry wrote the strategy. Everything that Mark did and implemented came from what Larry's.
Which is now Herbalife's known as the what, #2 in the. I mean, they're a multi-billion-dollar company now. So
$7 billion this last year.
How much?
$7 billion.
7 billion.
7 billion.
Oh my God. And Larry started that. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to have him on. Rick McCormick is going to the website, joining the book club. Nancy, who's in the Philippines, is a member of Herbalife. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So you definitely want to join the book club, and you want to get the book, Nancy, because really, if you really want to know the truth, I mean, this really carries Herbalife's history. It carries it because he talks about Mark Hughes, he talks about Jim Rohn, and he was
Larry was good friends with Jim Rohn.
Larry spoke at Jim Rohn's private funeral. I mean, that's the friends that they were.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, and Larry was responsible for bringing Jim Rohn to Herbalife in 1985, which really catapulted Jim Rohn's career internationally. That's how he became internationally renowned, is Herbalife and his connection with Larry.
Wow.
And so
incredible.
You think about all those pieces and how they came together. It's unbelievable, the history and all the connections. And whenever you look at the contributors inside the book, they all started with Larry. They all started, and they took those briefcase of skills they had with Millionaire Training. Millionaire Training was recorded 40 years ago, this February 21st, 40 years ago.
Gosh.
And it still is relevant today, more relevant probably now than it's ever been. But they took those skills and they went off to all. You talk about Lisa Grossman, #1 of her company. Ray Higdon's even in here.
Yeah.
Lisa, let's see, Frank McKay, all different companies. Rick and Michelle Teague, Modere. You've got Dan McCormick, Nu Skin, John Solander, Immunotech, Jay Bennett, Isogenics. I mean, Rolf Zorg, PM International, whose company just hit $1 billion in sales in 2019. And I mean, that's powerful, all because of fundamentals, these core values that we teach.
Amazing. Taylor, you rock. I mean, I freaking adore you. I love you both, you and Larry. You're two of my favorite people. And I'm just grateful that you're in my life. God knows what he's doing, that's for sure.
Well, he does, and I'm so happy that he does, and I'm so happy that he made us cross paths for sure. Because you definitely make my day. Especially whenever I have something to share. You're one of the top 5 on my list that I share my stuff with.
Well, that makes me feel special. You're awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Everybody go to the millionairetraining.com, join the book club. There's links to the book on there to buy the book, right?
Yeah, and there's a link for the audio if they wanted to
audio,
the radio, but just join the book club. Download it. Come have fun with us. Go clubbing with Taylor.
Yeah, you're amazing. Listen, thank you to everybody who's been on here and watched, and Taylor, thank you for being so open and transparent. One of my favorite sayings, and I don't know if I heard this from somebody else. I think I did. But pain is the predecessor of all wisdom. And it shows. It shows that everything you've been through just created this amazing, beautiful human being. I know that you're also an animal lover, and you have like 15 dogs or something. But I think the world of you. My wife loves you. We just think the world of you guys. So Taylor, thank you so much for being a guest today and being so open.
I'm sorry we went long. I mean, like,
it's fine. It's fine. It was perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. Everybody who shared this out, you will be blessed today. I promise you. If you didn't share this out, you'll probably still be blessed, but not as blessed.
Hey, should we do a drawing for those who share it?
If you want, sure. What are you doing?
Let's do that. So if they share it out or tag somebody, let's do a real live drawing. And I'll empty, this is my last drawing. I actually put people's names in a drawing.
Oh my God.
And I do like a live drawing, and we can do a live drawing for a signed book. And I'll do this. I'll give away 2 signed books. If you want.
Wow.
If they
so
share.
You're gonna go back and look at all the people that shared and
yeah. Or if you show me on your shares and I'll show you on my shares, I'll put their names in a drawing and we'll do that.
Perfect. But we can't do it now.
No.
Oh, you mean like I got you.
We'll give them to let's say we'll give them to the till Saturday morning.
Perfect.
And give them a chance to share. And then your replays can share too.
Look at you go. Just sporadically doing that. I love it. Rick just shared it out. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
And I know a bunch of other people have too. So thank you all so much. Taylor, thank you. You're amazing. And thank you to everybody. Taylor, don't hang up on me, but I am going to end the live stream. So thank you so much. Love you. Love you all. Thank you. And have a blessed and wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.